Welcome, everyone. Our guest today is none other than Angie Ribuffo, founder of Raion Financial Strategies. Angie holds a prestigious certified planner designation, is a chartered financial consultant, a retirement income certified professional, a certified divorce analyst, and a certified long-term care professional. Angie has been recognized by the Investment News in 2018 as one of the women to watch. Lastly, not only has she served as the national president of Women in Financial Services, she has also been awarded the WIFS Angel Award recipient and is consistently recognized since 2012 as a Woman in Financial Services Circle of Excellence recipient. Clearly an incredible advocate for diversity and inclusion in our industry, Angie, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Roland. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Angie, what I failed to mention for our viewers who may not be familiar with you is that you also obtained the rank of captain while in the Air Force and served as an Air Force flight nurse. And you even spent some time on Capitol Hill working on quality of life issues for the Department of Defense. What led you to this career in insurance and financial services?
Well, I've been married to my husband for 39 years, and 30 of those years he was in the military, and that allowed me the opportunity to travel, but it also made it difficult for me as a nurse to find work. And so I found myself in family support issues, working family support type programs, and all of them seemed to have a financial background of some kind. And so that got me interested in the personal side of things, personal budgeting, debt management. But during this entire time, my husband and I have had a financial advisor. And so I knew what it was like to go to a financial advisor, have a conversation, set out our goals. And so when my husband retired from the military, I was approached about opening up my own practice and becoming a financial advisor. And it made sense to me because all of these years I had now suddenly moved from being in medicine and a nurse to really being in the financial side of things in the financial services industry. And so that's what led me to becoming a financial advisor.
Excellent. Well, founding any company is hard. Doing so when you're faced with additional barriers due to race and gender can make it even harder. What has been your experience as an African-American woman in the insurance and financial services industry?
Well, I've had two components to that question. One is the overt and the other one is the covert. So overtly, it has been more about my gender than it is about my race. So being a woman in the financial services industry, which is still underrepresented and has been for decades, and still exists today, has been one of those major overt kinds of challenges. I was consistently told when I started that, I wasn't doing business right. I wasn't going to be successful if I continued doing my practice the way that I was doing it. And so I found that to be very frustrating because I figured I can't be the only woman out there, let alone person out there, who wants to build a practice built on relationships versus transactions. And that's really what my goal was. So that was kind of the gender piece of trying to move through this process and get into the financial services industry, was making sure that I was trying to be my authentic self and being able to have conversations and relationships with my clients based on who I am, not what was conceived or preconceived by others is how I should be. So gender became that issue. The covert side of that, obviously, was my ethnicity. And so that came about in subtle ways, jokes or inferences. I actually had an advisor that was in the office with me who told his assistant, for instance, it was a white gentleman who told his assistant that she was to go in and cross out Kwanzaa in every pocket calendar that he gave out to his clients, because obviously Kwanzaa was not a real holiday. So it just amazed me that he actually had that thought process going through his head that that was really not something that should be celebrated, because in his mind, it really wasn't a holiday. So throughout the course of my life, it has been one of those things where race has always been a subcurrent underneath, never necessarily overtly put out there, but always kind of underlying that, you're just not quite there yet. You're just not quite right for this, that, or the other thing. And so managing that has been to just proceed, be my authentic self. At the end of the day, I looked at it and said, I am who I am. Clients, business partners will either take me or not, and having to really assimilate that into my being and not be pushed to be something that I'm not just because. But it's been a long road. I mean, in my younger days, it was really difficult to have to be able to stand up in your own self and say, I'm an African-American woman. And actually, Roland, I am a biracial child. So that sometimes even adds more layers to the complexity of, who are you? It's kind of, growing up, it was kind of a mixed bag. I grew up, in the 70s, where it was really a different time. So when you look at race, you have to look at all the components of that, not just, African-American, but the fact that there are a lot of people out there now who are biracial, multiracial. We're just in an area where it's not just African-Americans or whites or Asians, it's, this wonderful, truly a melting pot, but all of that comes with some challenges.
Thanks for sharing that, Angie. It's clear that, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here, that life insurance has a potential to mitigate wealth disparities across race. Contrary to a lot of previous studies, there's new research that suggests that African American individuals are actually more likely than white individuals to purchase life insurance. Yet, Blacks and African Americans are still woefully underrepresented in both insurance and financial services. Why do you think that is?
A lot of it, I think, comes from the fact that there's a financial literacy issue within the African American population. As a race, we are not quite clear on what financial services and the industry means. What does that mean? And so if you don't see people who look like you, there's a question of value to that. But when you see people who look like you, there's obviously value. So when you look at it, you think of medicine, sports, science. So you look at STEM and how STEM has become a great way for all cultures to kind of get into sciences, technology, engineering, and math, right? But we don't look at financial services. It's not like there's an F at the end of STEM that says finance. So then it comes down to, well, if I don't understand what you do, why would I want to do it? And I don't understand how I get paid, and I don't understand how I can prosper from that. So I'd rather go do something else. So I think that's one aspect. The other aspect is, I don't know if the industry has really wrapped its arms around how to train from a cultural perspective. And you have to address that because, again, if I'm going out and I'm speaking to an African American family and I don't understand the culture of that family and where that family comes from, then having a discussion about life insurance or any financial product doesn't make any sense to them because, again, they don't know what that means. So you have to bring more in, but in order for you to bring more of us in, African Americans or any underrepresented, group like women, you have to be able to train them to be successful. And I don't think the industry is there yet. I still think they're missing the boat there. So there's a training issue. There's an opportunity issue of not understanding what the opportunity there is, in our profession. And so I think when you couple all of those together, African Americans look and say, I could go do something else that might be more prosperous for me, might be more valuable for me, might have a credibility piece. And again, our industry sometimes does not have the best reputation. So that could also be a barrier.
As a leader in the industry and member of two underrepresented demographics, what message do you have for young Black or African American women who think this industry may not be for them?
I would say give it a go. Um, I think that the financial services industry for women and African American women gives us an ability to be so flexible in what it is that we do from a career standpoint. I'm a career changer, like you said in the very beginning of the intro. One of the things that, and of course we have a plane going overhead. One of the things that brought me in was a chance. It wasn't something that I had prepared to do. So I consider myself to be a career changer. So that also gives an avenue for us to come in. There are many African American families that are run by women. They're the matriarchs, and so they spend a lot of time in the early years taking care of their family. So this is a great avenue to come back in and re-enter the workforce in a place where you don't have to have a math background, where you don't have to have a skill set specifically in finance. You don't have to have a degree in it. You can actually learn the job from others and be mentored to be successful as a career changer. For the younger generation that's coming in, again, not looking at STEM, but look at where financial literacy, where financial services, where the industry can take you as a professional, but also take an entire population. When you're talking about, the wealth gap, it's really financial insecurity, I think, in the African American culture. There's a financial insecurity there that I believe the more of us that are in will be able to help, because if you see someone that looks like you, again, you're more apt to be drawn to that person and want to have a conversation. But in order to do that, there needs to be more of us.
All right. Final thoughts, Angie. How can the industry instigate real change when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
Wow. So this may not be politically correct to say this, but we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion. And I think the thing that we really have to look at from an industry perspective out there is that D&I, diversity and inclusion, cannot just be the next buzzword. You really got to put some money where your mouth is. You really have to want to dig in and take a deep dive into what that means. What does diversity and inclusion mean from an industry perspective? Because if we really can peel back the layers of that, then we will change how we onboard financial services professionals who are of a different ethnicity. We will be able to build training programs that speak specifically to the needs of that up and coming financial services professional. We will be able to work through how we bring women on and the differences in their approach that may be different from our male counterparts. Not wrong, just different. And if we can do all of those things, then we can start to move the clock a little bit and bring more women on, bring more people of color on, be able to have conversations with them and have them become successful. The piece that I think is missing on top of all of that is that the industry then has to understand the differences between mentoring someone and sponsoring or advocating for someone. And I think we miss that, both on the gender side of things for women, for sure, but also on the ethnicity side of the racial divide, that everyone is looked at differently. And in today's world, specifically in today's world, you have to take a step back and say, as a industry, it's not just words. What does it really mean? What does my company or my profession really have to do to move that? And it isn't any one thing. You can't just throw money at it, but you really have to want to change the thought process and the intention behind what it is your company or profession is doing.
So well said, Angie. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. It was an incredible honor, and look forward to sharing your voice with our audience. Thank you so much.
Roland, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.